Hi, fifth grade. Welcome to another great day of learning. My name is Miss Hall, and I am a fifth grade reading teacher at William Fox Elementary School. I'm so excited to be back with you all today. For today's lesson, you are going to need a pencil or something to write with. You are going to need a piece of paper, or you can print the papers from RPS at home. You're going to need whatever device you are watching me on, and then you're going to need a positive attitude. I know we're all going a little crazy at home right now, but we can still have a great day of learning. If you are missing any of those things, go ahead and pause the video and go grab them now. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, so we are continuing to work on compare and contrast today, and today is our final day of working on this for this unit. Your learning intentions for today, so by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to do these things. So first, I can identify the text structure, compare and contrast. Second, I can list signal words of the compare and contrast text structure. So signal words, remember, are words, are keywords that tell us that a text is set up as a compare and contrast text. Next is I can compare and contrast details in a nonfiction text. And finally, I can compose a text in the text structure, compare and contrast. So you'll be writing a short text at the end of this where you're writing and compare and contrast. All right, so today what we're gonna do, we're gonna play a game. That'll be the first thing we do. Then we're going to practice the compare and contrast text structure by reading a passage and answering some questions. And then finally, I'll explain to you what your wrap-up project is going to look like for this unit. All right, so we did a game like this a couple days ago, and what you were doing was you were trying to spot the differences. So in a second, I'm gonna move this gray picture so that way you can see the picture. On your blank piece of paper, you are going to grab it. If you printed it from RPS at home, you can use mine, or you can just make it on paper like I made mine right here. You're gonna take a piece of paper, fold it in half like a hamburger, and then set up a chart that looks like this, or like the one on my screen, where you have a spot for similarities and where you have a spot for differences. So what you're going to be doing on your paper, when I move this gray picture, you'll see two different pictures. With those two different pictures, you are going to find 4 differences, and you're going to find 4 similarities. So you are going to list under your similarities and under your differences your four different ones for both, and you are going to remember to use your signal words. So remember, signal words are our words that tell us what we're talking about. So if we're talking about similarities, those are our compare signal words. So like the same as, both, they both have this. Things like that would be your similarity signal words. And then when we're talking about your differences would be things like, this picture has this, however, the second one has, things like that. So those are going to be your signal words for differences. So that's what you're going to be doing while you're looking at your picture. I'm going to put a 2-minute timer on the screen. When the timer goes off, we'll put our pencils down and talk a little bit about it. right, so your time is up. A couple of the similarities you could have written down, you could have said maybe something like, in both pictures, there are two girls playing basketball. You could have said, in both pictures, there is a net, things like that. So you should have 4 similarities written down. And then for your differences, there's several differences also in this picture. You could have mentioned, like maybe in picture A, there's a blue rim, and in picture B, on the other hand, there's a red rim. You could have said, what other differences are there? The girl in the middle in picture A is wearing GK on her uniform. However, in picture B, she's wearing GD or GL. I don't know, I can't read that letter. All right, so that's what you should have had written down. This is just kind of a way for us to warm up and practice using our signal words. All right, so this picture looks a little confusing, and that's okay. I'm going to explain to you what we're going to be doing. So the last passage we're going to read together today is about moths and butterflies. And so as you're reading, you're going to fill out a graphic organizer. You can either use this diagram, which is just something a little bit different than a Venn diagram, or you can set up a Venn diagram, whichever one you're more comfortable doing. If you want to use this one, you can draw it. I drew one, it looks like this. If you don't want to use the circles, you don't have to. So on the back of your paper, you can use the back of your paper to set up your diagram. So go ahead and pause the video and get your diagram set up. So with this diagram, so we're going to be comparing and contrasting moths and butterflies. So these 3 middle circles would be for similarities, and then the 3 outer circles would be for differences. So go ahead, pause this video, get your diagram set up, and then we'll go through and read together. All right, so we're going to go ahead and read through. So again, if you want to read this passage to yourself, it is located on the RPS at home page, so you can go on there and download that file and read from there. Or you can read along with me as I read it out loud on the slides. Or if you want to click through the video and like pause the video and read, you can do that too. Whatever's easiest for you, or whatever's going to help you know the best or understand the text the best. So as we're reading, your job is going to be to fill out this diagram. So these middle 3 circles, so the middle 3 circles you see here would be where you're going to list 3 similarities from the text that we read about moths and butterflies. And then these 3 outer circles are where you're going to list differences. So you would list things on these 3 outer circles that are true only about moths and things that are true only about butterflies. You're going to be filling out this graphic organizer as we read because it's a way to help you monitor your comprehension. All right, so let's go ahead and read through together. So beautiful butterflies and marvelous moths. I'm going to pause there for 1 second. So that's a type of figurative language. I think you talked about figurative language last week. This type of figurative language would be alliteration because we have BB and then MM. But that's a different topic. So beautiful butterflies and marvelous moths. What's the first thing you think of when you hear the word butterfly and moth? Flying large winged insects with 2 long antennae? A 4-stage life cycle called metamorphosis? Well, all of these are true. Butterflies and moths also have other things in common. They have a number of differences as well. First, let's look at how a few other ways they are alike. Both are in the group of insects called Lepidoptera. Both have 3 main body parts: a head, thorax, and abdomen. Both have a long tongue called a proboscis. The tongue uncoils for feeding, working kind of like a drinking straw. Both have tiny colored scales covering their wings. When touched, the scales come off and look like dust on your fingers. So before I click to the next slide, you should already have at least 3 things written down on your chart because I just read a lot of similarities. So if you need to pause the video and get your chart filled out now, go ahead and do that. Now let's look at some of the way butterflies and moths are different. Most butterflies are diurnal, meaning they are active during the day. Most moths are nocturnal, meaning they are active at night. The bodies of butterflies are slender and smoother than the thicker and hairier moths. Butterfly antennae have thick knobs on their heads. Both antennae are feathery or plain with no knobs. Both butterflies rest with their wings folded together above their bodies. Most moths rest with their wings spread out to the sides. Most butterflies have colorful wings. Many moths aren't so bright and colorful, though there are some that are. All right, before I go to the next slide, you should have been able to fill out some things that are unique just to moths and some things that are unique just to butterflies. Pause the video and get your chart filled out now. While both insects go through a complete metamorphosis cycle, egg, larvae, or caterpillar, pupa, adult, their pupa stages are slightly different. A butterfly caterpillar forms a chrysalis and hangs from a tree branch or other support. A moth caterpillar usually spins a silk cocoon. This cocoon might be hidden among leaves or other debris on the ground. Now you know some of the ways butterflies and moths are alike and different. Perhaps the next time you see one of these insects, you can put your knowledge to work and try to determine which one it is. All right, so that is the end of our passage, I think. Yes. All right, so make sure your chart is filled out. So you should have 3 things that the animals have in common and 3 things, or I guess it'd be 6 differences between the insects. So make sure your chart is filled out. All right, so now what we're going to do, I have a couple of questions we're going to go through and answer. So you're going to go back to this original page you started with where you listed similarities and differences and we folded it in half. On the bottom half, you should have some space left on there. I have 5 questions we're going to answer, so you can number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that way you can write down the answer before I show it to you on the screen. All right, so we're going to look at these questions. So number 1, what is a proboscis? Explain what it is used for. So see if you can think back to the text and think about this. Go ahead and pause the video and get your answer written down. All right, so the answer to this question is, it's a long tongue that uncoils for feeding. It works kind of like a drinking straw. Number 2, which set of animals is diurnal? Go ahead, pause your video, pick the best answer, and write it down. All right, the best answer was D, butterflies, honeybees, and squirrels. Number 3, a butterfly is a blank in its pupa stage. A moth is a blank in its pupa stage. So see if you can think back to what those terms were, or you might have written it down on your graphic organizer. Pause the video, get your answer written down, and then I'll tell you the answer in a second. All right, a butterfly is a chrysalis in its pupa stage. A moth is a cocoon in its pupa stage. Number 4, tell how moths and butterflies are different in the way they rest. Pause the video, look back at your graphic organizer, and get your answer written down. I'll tell you the answer in a second. All right. Most butterflies rest with their wings folded together above their bodies. Most moths rest with their wings spread out to the sides. So that's the different ways that they rest. All right, number 5, how did the author organize this article? This one should be an easy one. We're thinking about the way that our text is structured, and it's the text structure we've been using all week. See if you can look through your answer choices and write down the correct one. Pause the video if you need more time. All right, we should all know this one. The best answer is D. He compares and contrasts moths and butterflies. All right, so you can go ahead and put your papers to the side. So the final thing that you're going to do once this video is done is you are going to be doing a final wrap-up project. So what you're going to be doing for this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what this is going to look like. So I'm going to read through the instructions that are on my screen and then show you an example. So your job is going to be to create 2 identical monsters using any medium. So you're going to be drawing these monsters. You can make it on the computer if you are tech savvy and like computer things. If you have crayons at home and you want to use that, you can use crayons. If you have markers and paints and things like that, you are more than welcome to use that. Whatever medium you have. If you don't have tons of craft supplies at your house, that's okay. You can use pencils and just do it on a blank piece of paper. Any type of medium, whatever you have around your home. So you're going to make 2 different monsters, and you want them to look exactly the same. Then, once you've created those, you're going to add 5 small differences. So kind of like what we've been doing with those pictures this week, you're going to add 5 small differences to your monsters. Then you're going to go to an adult or someone at your home, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, babysitter, older brother, someone who's at your house with you, and see if they can guess the differences between your two monsters. Then, finally, you're going to write about it using your signal words. So I'm going to show you an example of what mine looks like. So these are my two monsters, okay? So I had monster 1 and I had monster 2. They're very similar, but there are some differences. So like, for example, one of my differences is my second monster has an orange eye. That one has a blue eye. Another example is this monster has a pink outline for his hair. This one has a yellow outline for its hair. I think my monsters have different amounts of freckles. This monster has 3 teeth, that one has 2. But do you notice how there's a few different differences between my monsters? But other than that, they look mostly the same. That's what your goal is, okay? Then, once you play this game with your adults, once you show them and have them guess, you're going to write about it. And I'm going to show you what your writing should look like. And there's also a page on the RPS at home page that gives you a little bit more direction on what the writing should sound like. All right, so you are going to write 3 different paragraphs, but we're in 5th grade. We can do it. I have faith in you. So in your first paragraph, you're going to describe the similarities. So your monster should have several similarities. You're going to write 5 sentences. So you're going to have, that means you'll have 5 different similarities, and you're going to use a signal word in each sentence. So if I go back to mine, I could say, both monsters are green. Another thing the monsters have in common is that they have 3 eyes. Does that make sense what you're doing? So that first paragraph is going to be 5 similarities, 5 sentences, 5 signal words, okay? Your second paragraph is going to be describing the differences. So again, 5 sentences, 5 differences, 5 sentences, and 5 differences, and you're using your signal words. All right, so if I wanted to talk about mine, I would say monster 1 has 3 blue eyes. Monster 2 has 2 blue eyes and 1 orange eye. Okay, so that's an example for my sentences. So it's 5 sentences, 5 differences, always using signal words, okay? And then in your third paragraph, this one I don't have quite as much direction for you, but you're just going to describe your experience of showing your picture to your family. So this one would be 4 to 6 sentences long. Just talk about who did you share it with? Were they able to guess? Was it fun? Things like that, okay? So that's what would happen in your third paragraph. All right, so that is all I have for this lesson. Let me go back to my screen. All right, so this week we've been working on compare and contrast. I hope you have a better understanding of how to do that now in text. Have fun making your monsters, and I hope you all have a great weekend. I've really enjoyed being here with you all. Goodbye.